Peace and blessings, family. This is Sunray here, and this will be my official first video that I'm uploading to my channel. I go by Sunray, and I just wanted to bring you a video where I show, I guess, really just an update of my journey, my plant growing journey, and talk a little bit about saving seeds, reducing waste, and the reasons for that. So, and also we'll get a little bit into how to start seeds. So, I'll be honest, I am only really learning, or not only, I'm learning mostly from my experience of doing the work. So I read, but there just are not enough books in the world to really give you the information on exactly what it is that you want to know. Sometimes it takes forever to find information on a website, and so I figured that I can just bring you direct information, answer specific questions, and it'll be a lot easier that way. And we can do little short snippets where I'm just answering one-on-one questions or something like that. But so let's just get started. So one of the reasons why I started to save seeds was because I guess I've always intuitively known that I grew up with parents who would tell me not to be wasteful, and grandparents who would tell me not to be wasteful. Eat everything that's on your plate. We were eating different things then, but as I started to get older, then I started noticing like all these plants that we eat, our watermelons, our apples, our oranges, and grapefruits, and things like that, they all have seeds in them. And this is really before I started doing any reading about it, but something in me just said to start saving the seeds, because I guess we never know what can happen with the way that the production market is going now in the U.S. The government offers subsidies and incentives for farmers to grow corn and wheat, because so many of the foods, the processed foods that are in the grocery stores, are made from corn and wheat, just processed versions of it. But that's not really helping the farms to sustain. And if you know anything about farming, or if you don't, I'll share it with you now. The farmers usually have to plant something different every season, or not every season, but they might have a season where they're growing one product, and then the next season they have to switch up that product, because if you grow too much of the same product, then it will begin to draw out specific nutrients out of the soil that are not replaced fast enough. And so when you mix it up, you create diversity in the vegetation that you're growing, then you begin to also diversify the soil, the richness of the soil. Also, there are things in agriculture like having to rotate that's what it's called. It's called rotating crops, but you might also have to rotate locations. So anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because our farmers are not growing enough diverse products, and so most of our foods are coming from the same farms. They're coming from the same places, but what happens if their farm happens to have issues, if they're having issues with their soil. Not only that, but our food, they take, you know, days, sometimes a week to get to our grocery stores. And so most of these foods have to be picked early before they're ripe and eaten quickly. And you've probably seen this when you're in the grocery store. You're checking your food because you want it to look perfect, right? But you're also really checking to make sure that it's not already going bad, so that by the time that you get around to using it, it hasn't molded and rotted in your refrigerator, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this to you is because I have a vision that the more of us that we can get to start our own home gardens, the more fresh food that we collectively as a community will have available to us. One thing that our ancestors used to do back on the continent of Africa before the Ma'afa was people had their specific trades. You know, you might have a carpenter, you have a mason, you have a seamstress, and, you know, all kinds of practitioners in the community. But I mean, they didn't have a need to have one farm or one farmer. Like, that wasn't a profession, because everybody grew food. Everybody grew their own food. Now, what made it so diverse and so strong was that maybe I grow tomatoes, you grow potatoes, and they're growing apples, and they're growing oranges, and they're growing lemons, you know, things like that. And what I don't have, I can get from you. You don't have, I can give, you know. And so it just became like a food sharing system. You know, they would trade goods for the welfare of the community. Everybody was putting up, because at the end of the day, you don't want your crops to go bad. All the things that you've, you know, put energy and time into growing. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that's just a little bit of the reason why I'm doing this. So I started saving seeds. Some of the things that I saved, I started using dates as sweetener and in my smoothies and other things, you know. The thing about dates, you kind of want them to soak in some water for 8 hours, usually overnight. That'll soften them up and make them easy to blend. But if you can find some dates that are not pitted, save the seeds. Save the seeds. This will also cut down on the amount of money that you have to spend in the future, because, you know, you now have these seeds. You can grow your own. You don't have to grow them all at the same time, you know. Seeds are really good, so they stay. So this is what a date seed looks like. I haven't grown any dates. How I'm storing them right now is in a Ziploc bag, and I always remember to put the name on the bag, because I made a mistake one time. Oh, it looks like I got an apple seed in there. One time I made a mistake, and I stored all of my grapefruit, lemon, lime, like all my citrus fruit seeds. I stored them together, and so when I planted them, I had no idea what I was planting. So when they began to sprout, I have no idea what I'm looking at. But it's okay. We're going to keep nurturing them until they get big enough and start bearing fruit, and then I'll know. I have two kinds of apples. I have Granny Smith apples. That's courtesy of my love, which the seeds are really small. You know what apple seeds look like. I also have Golden Delicious, because they're so sweet and so delicious apples. I have grapefruit seeds. I have a couple of orange seeds. I haven't had oranges in a little while, and I'll get back to that. Kumquat. I had a kumquat at work. A co-worker gave me, so I decided to just hold on to the seeds. And finally, lemon, which this one I'm a little embarrassed to show y'all, but I'll show you anyway. Lemon seeds, right? So this is the reason why. Oh, I forgot. I also have avocado seeds. You know, the avocado, because you know they're so big. So the thing about these plastic bags, I don't think that this is the best way to store, because they trap in moisture. And so if you can kind of tell, they're the moisture in there is making them begin to sprout. At first I looked at them and I was like, oh, they're molding. And they are molding a little bit, but all it is really is just, this is the reason why, if you understand that nature, like George Washington Carver says, nature produces no waste, right? So if you can see this here, I don't know if I'm in the way or not. Come on, focus. Anyway, you kind of see a root has sprouted from this seed. I'm a little nervous about opening it right now. I'm gonna open it and show you how to plant these. But as of right now, I just wanted to show you that the moisture trapped in here has caused, well, you can even see some of the moisture over in this corner. It's caused them to begin sprouting. Same thing with these avocados. They've gotten warm, and so they're getting soft, right? And so because of that, the decomposition process, if you really put it into perspective, what do you think happens when you plant something? It's going to break down anyway. The things that oftentimes, you know, from the moisture and the heat together, that just makes them sprout roots. So, and that's what you need to grow a plant, a tree, or whatever. But the most important thing, they also need oxygen. These bags are not giving them oxygen. So what I would say, just kind of a lesson learned so far is, if you want to preserve your seeds for longer than a couple of weeks, then probably the first thing you need to do is allow them to dry out on a paper towel. After, you know, because for example, I have some plum seeds in there and some cherry seeds inside, and when they come out of their fruit, they're extremely moist. So I allow for them to dry out a little bit before I put them into something. And I'm still looking for what is going to be the best thing for them to be stored in. But as of now, I just have these plastic Ziploc bags, and it works.